Hi, I'm Tom with the SPB production channel, and in this video I will provide you with basic overview of Bonsai user interface and how to explore an IFC model. So basically I will show you how to use Bonsai BIM as an IFC viewer, as in my opinion, it serves as one of the best IFC viewers in that it provides you with a complex information about the IFC file. So Bonsai beginners will find this video useful, but I hope that also experienced users will find some interesting stuff that I will explain in this video. And I'm using Bonsai 0.8.5. Okay, so let's get to it. So let's open an IFC file. So I will go to File, Open IFC Project, and I will select my sample project. And you can see that Bonsai user interface is quite complex and it might be overwhelming at first, but it's not that bad after you get used to it. So my model is loaded, and to see the whole model in 3D space, I will press the Home button. This zooms to all of the objects in the project, so now I can see that all of these objects are in the project. So let's take a look at the basic UI of Bonsai. So here you have your drop-down menus, the file options. Here is the scene collection, which provides information about all of the objects in the scene or in the IFC file, and you can see that they are organized in building stories or levels, and you can drop them up, collapse them, or drop them down. Now here what's useful: on your numpad keyboard, if you use minus and minus, it will collapse everything, and if you use plus, it will expand the next level, and plus, it will expand the next level. So this way you can collapse and expand it pretty easily, and then use these manual icons. Now here is your 3D view, and you've got your standard. If you rotate your mouse wheel, you zoom in and out. If you hold your mouse wheel and click and drag, you rotate. If you add shift and hold your mouse wheel, you pan. So this is your standard orientation in 3D space. And what's important here are tools. Most of them are modeling tools, but it's important to know that when you have the various tools selected, the context of what various shortcuts do changes. So it's important to note that most of the time here, when using Bonsai as an IFC viewer, we will be using just this select box. That's the default one. So this is quite important. And here on the right is the most important, the Scene Explorer, where I have tabs here which I can switch. So the most important tabs here are this first one, it's the project overview. This second one gives me object information of selected objects. So if I select this object, you can see it's IFC slab. This third one provides the mostly material information about the selected objects. These others are, we will not be using them, mainly maybe quality and coordination, but we will mostly be using these first two. And this panel, you can see that sometimes the text is quite cramped, so I can hover my mouse here and drag and make it a bit wider so I can read all of this information easily. Okay, so let's get to some basic selections in the 3D space. So if I click in an empty space, I deselect everything. And if I want to select something, let's say this wall, I will click with the left mouse button. If I click on another object, it selects the other object, and this one is deselected. If I want to select multiple objects, I can select this one, and with shift, select this one, and select this one. So now I have these 4 objects selected, and to deselect them, I will again click away. And for multiple object selection, if I'm in my selection tool, selection box, I can click and drag and all of the objects that were in the window are selected, and then again with clicking away I will deselect. Now sometimes you want to select object and explore them. So let's say I will select these 4 objects again and I want to explore them, and to isolate just these objects I will press on my numpad the slash button, and if I press it I'm zoomed in on the selected objects, and those other objects are not visible, they are hidden. Now if I press the slash button on my numpad again, the isolation is reversed. So I recommend you not to work in this a long time, and when I have something isolated like this, then to de-isolate it again. And of course sometimes I want to hide objects, so if I wanted to hide these I would just press H as in hide. So this hides these objects, so I could hide this slab and hide this slab again, so I can see inside of my floor. And to unhide the hidden objects I will press Alt H. Alt H reverses the hide, and so every hidden object is unhidden with Alt H. So you have to be a bit careful about that. But at least you have a certainty that all of the objects are unhidden. Now what's pretty useful, sometimes we want to isolate or hide the whole level, so I will use the scene collection for this, and you can see these are my stories or levels, and if I want to hide, let's say level 6 and 5, I will click this hide in viewport button, and these 2 levels were hidden, and then this one is hidden. So you can see that I can easily hide or unhide levels in this way. And if I wanted to isolate a level, so let's say I wanted to isolate level 3, I would click on this icon holding control, so control click, and you can see that only this level is now visible. And to unisolate it again, I will control click on this back like so. So this is pretty neat. Few more things about the orientation in the 3D space. Again, we will be using numpad keys. So if I press 7, I'm looking at the object, my project from the top. If I press 1, I'm looking at it from the front. If I press 3, I'm looking from the side. So 1, 3, and 7 are really useful keys. And another important key in your number pad is number 5, because this one changes from the orthographic to perspective viewing in your 3D space. So this is again very useful. And the last button on your num keypad which is useful is the dot button or comma. So if I select, let's say, this door and I want to zoom to it but not isolate it, I will press the comma, and this zooms on the object that I had selected, or on several objects. So if I'm zoomed out and I select this window, and press the comma button, I'm zoomed onto the window. So I will press home to see the whole of my project. And now let's get to the exploring the project. So on the project overview tab, these tabs here, they might be quite overwhelming, but I recommend you to collapse all of these, and then you can see nicely that there are not so many groups, and you can then drop down and see what's inside of the group. So project info is definitely important because we can see the file name, the IFC schema, the MVD, and when was it last saved. And what's key of every IFC file is the spatial decomposition. So we will click here, and here you can see again several drop downs. So for us the important is spatial decomposition, because here you can see this is the main spatial decomposition, and I can see this is the project label, this is the site label, this is the building or there could be several buildings, and then there are levels here which I'm dropping up. So you can see I've got these several levels or stories, and I get a nice overview. And if I want to see what's inside of the story or level, I will drop it down and I can see all of these spaces inside of the level. So this is the name L04 and this is the description level 04, and you can see also the position. And so these are the spaces inside of that level. And if I select, let's say, this space, I can also see here objects which are in this space. So I can see the furniture, and it's just this one object. If I selected the whole level, I could see all of the objects that are inside of the level. You can see that I have lots of IFC building element proxies, which is not nice. But what is nice is, let's say if I select my level 4 and then these doors, I will select just all of these. You can see I've got 64 doors. And if I press this button, select elements, I have selected all of the doors inside of level 4. And if I press the slash button on my numpad, I've got these isolated so I could easily work with them, change their properties, etc. And if I press the slash again on the numpad, the isolation is reversed. So this is pretty neat, the spatial decomposition of my project. So this is the project overview, and let's get to the object information. So let's say I will select this window, and you can see this is my selection. And if I click this button, the tab of object information, here we have got again information about this selected object. So if I drop it up, you can see that most of them are in the object. But here, if I drop them up like so, you can see that they are organized on object attributes, information about the object type, the spatial container it is in, the aggregates, and then property sets and quantity sets and classification. So I can see this object is IFC window. If I drop this down, you can see the global ID, name, object type, tag, and etc. If I click this drop down, this is information about the IFC type of this object. So I can immediately see that this object is not just an occurrence. Well, it is occurrence, but it has type. That's leading how it is. These are the check names, so you might not understand them. And these are the attributes of the type. So you can see that I've got information about my object and information about the type. Here you can see where it's placed in the level 4. So that's the spatial container. And then I can click this drop down with property sets. And you can see that these are the properties of the object. And they are separated into occurrence properties, which are properties of just this one window, and then inherited properties from the type. So these are the type properties. So this is really cool about Bonsai, that it gives me this information. And here I've got always this is the IFC property set, is the IFC window information. And these are the individual properties. So it's height, type mark, and width. And you can see that I've got also some pset window common. These, you can see that my IFC is not structured very well because these should not be here. These are your standard IFC attributes or properties, but never mind. We are just exploring this file. Then you could have here your quantity properties and quantity sets, and then here you would have your classifications. I can see that there is no classification reference for this object. So I really like the exploration of information of objects in Bonsai. And here is the Geometry and Material tab, where the most important for us would be object materials. And you can see that this one has the material constituent set. So it's these are the materials that are used for this window. If I selected this wall, you can see that it would have these two material layers. So this is again exposed really nice to the user. Now the tool that I really like is if I go back to the object information and I select the window again. Here I've got the IFC window class, and if I click this button, all of the objects of this class in the project will be selected. So you can see that I've got all of my windows selected. So this is pretty neat. And what is also neat is here in the type, I have got again this button, so I can select all of the windows with the same type as this window. So if I click this one and again isolate them, you can see that now only this type of window was selected and isolated, and I can work with them. What is also pretty great is here I can edit attributes or properties of this window occurrence, but sometimes I want to edit the type, and I can actually select the window type by selecting this window, and then you can see here clicking this button, the window is deselected, and here I have selected the window type with all of its attributes, property sets, properties, etc. So here I could get information about the type, and I could actually edit these properties. And what's important to note in the scene collections, all of the types are in this group IFC type product. If I drop this down, I can also select the types here. If I select, let's say this one, you can see that it's this door type with these properties. So this might be also sometimes useful to have the list of all of the types in your IFC project. Okay, so now we know how to get information about the objects, but let's get now back to space decomposition. We talked about this previously, but if I hide this slab and this slab, you can see that I don't see my spaces or zones in the 3D viewport. This is the default setting, but I could actually make them visible to see how or work with them. And to do that, I will go to the project overview tab, spatial decomposition, and then click this I button. And now you can see that my spaces are visible. So if I select this one, I can see it here that it's IFC space 303, and I have the object information of the space object here, and I can edit it. Now this might be useful to have these visible as a solid, but sometimes you don't want that. So now we will switch to a different tool, which is the spatial tool. If I click on the spatial tool, I have got several options. Toggle space visibility. So if I click it, they are visible as a wireframe, so I can still select them, work with them, but I can see through them as they are in a wireframe mode. Or I could toggle here, hide spaces, they are hidden, and then I'll hide them. So these are the options, and this toggle hide spaces is independent of this eye icon. So this eye icon overrides this toggle hide spaces. So let's now hide these spaces, and let me press Alt H to deselect all. And let me now show you also here I have got grids, and these might be, you can see that they are kind of in my face. So to hide grids in the spatial, under the spatial decomposition, there's the grids information, and I will just use this I button to hide the grids so I don't see these objects. Okay, now let me show you how to create a clipping plane, and for that we will go to the Explore tool. So this have to be activated, and we create clipping plane in Bonsai by selecting a face. So this will set up the orientation of the clipping plane. So I will select this slab, and then you can see here shortcut for adding a clipping plane is Shift C. If I press Shift C, a clipping plane is placed here, and I can drag it like so, and it clips automatically the building. And to flip it, I can press Shift F, and it will be actually clipped from the bottom. So this is how I can manipulate I will flip again. This is how I manipulate the clipping plane. And if I deselect it, I can then select it again and then manipulate with it. So if I wanted to create an elevation clipping plane, I would first delete this original clipping plane. So while having it selected, I will press delete. And then I would again select this wall and press Shift C to create the clipping plane here. And you can see that it works like this. Working with clipping planes is sometimes a bit finicky. I recommend you to use just one clipping plane at a time. If you have multiple clipping planes, so if I again select this one and press Shift C, this one will be created so I can combine them, but it might be quite finicky. And if you need to manage more than one clip plane, it's on the Quality and Coordination tab, and here it's the sandbox where more experimental tools than usual are, and this is the section cutaways with cappings, and you can manage them here. So sometimes it's hard to select more than one clipping plane in the 3D space, so you can remove them also from here. Now, a really powerful tool of Bonsai BIM is georeferencing. So in the project overview, I will drop up the spatial, and here we have got geometry, and then here is georeferencing. Here I've got my georeferencing data. The projected CRS is this EPSG, and these are the eastings, northings, and orthogonal height. So this is the information at my hand. But what is really nice, I can also display it graphically. So here on the georeferencing, I've got this eye again. And if I click this, this shows the georeferencing information at the local coordinate of 0, 0, 0. So I will look from the top. And this is quite cramped, so I will make it larger. So for the size, I will change this to 10 or maybe 15 so I can see it better. And here you can see that where the project north is, where the grid north is set up, where the true north, or if what the local coordinates are and what the map coordinates are, the eastings and northings. I recorded a separate video on how to add georeferencing to an IFC file, so you might watch that. I talk about these more in that video. But what is important for us, sometimes you want to check the coordinate information of certain point of your building, and for that we have got this georeferencing calculator here. So let's say I wanted to get information about this corner, what local coordinates are, all the map coordinates. I will have to snap my 3D cursor to this point, and I will do that by holding the shift and holding the right mouse button. And if I move my mouse while holding the right mouse button, you can see that it's snapping to important points. So I will snap the cursor here. So now you can see it's located up here. And now if I press this button, Blender will tell me the information about the position of this 3D cursor. So these are the local coordinates, X and Y, and these are the map coordinates. So this is quite useful to know how to get coordinates of certain points in your IFC project. So now I will hide the georeferencing data. And let's talk about measurements. There are two measurements tools in Bonsai. One is here, this one is measurement. And if I have this active, you can see that the snapping is turned on, and this works on click and drag functionality. So if I have my mouse here, click and drag, and have my mouse and then wait till it's snapped here, this shows the distance, it's 4000 millimeters. Now I hit delete to delete the measurement. Let's say if I measure from here to here, you can see again the distance. I could also measure the angle. If I click on this line and drag, I will be measuring the angle. So again, the snapping works. So now I can place the angle here. I can measure several distances. But then, in my opinion, it becomes quite finicky, because if I click here, there's the third measurement. Now I have to, if I select the other tool, these are still then active and I have to delete them. So I have to click on this here and delete this measurement, and then delete this one, and then again select it and delete this one. So it's a bit finicky. And the other measurement options is under the export tool. Here, if I click and drag my mouse button here, you can see Shift M now starts the measure tool, and I can set up measurement of length, of polyline, or area, or measure the face. So I will select this simple. So if I hit Shift M, the tool is considerably slower, less performant than the previous that I have shown you. So now again, I would actually edit the snapping. So the snapping setup is here. So I will escape the tool and change the snapping and disable snapping to edge and face. And now I will fire up the measure tool again. So Shift M. And then it should now snap to the endpoint. So I could click here, and I could also click here. So I've got my measurement and the delta. So and then I delete those measurements by pressing this button. So I think this measure tool is a bit quicker and easier to use. Now, when I was talking about selecting of objects, I was talking about them selecting in the 3D view mostly, but sometimes you need to create selection filters and select object based on their properties. And for that, we have got this grouping and filtering. And here we can have filters and searches. So I will show you just the basic one. To add a filter, I will add search group. And I will filter based on the class. So I will add the filter, and here I need to specify the class. So if I click this search tool, I can search for, let's say, window, and it will I have this search help that it will help me if I want to search for window type or IFC window. So I will select that I'm searching for the class IFC window. And if I click the search button, now all of the windows in my project are selected. I can actually combine these filters, so and I can also save them. So I will show you just this basic. And what is also useful is that you can search by GUID. So let's say my contractor told me that a window which has a GUID, this one has some problem. and he sent me just the GUID. So I will copy the GUID into my clipboard. So Control C. This I would actually do that in the email or the information that he sent me. Now I've got nothing selected, and if I want to select the window and I have the GUID in my clipboard, I will just click this button, select entity by GUID, and you can see that it selected the object that I had in my clipboard. So this is also quite neat. In the last part, let me show you how to view or open a federated model consisting of several IFCs. So I will open an IFC project, and it's the HVAC project of a building. So it's this one. And of course, if I'm working with this main IFC model, I want to see it in its context. So I want to see the structural or architectural model. And for that, in the project overview, I will look down here. And in the project setup, we've got links. And if I click this, I can link an external IFC. So I will click this and I will load my architectural model. I will link it. And after it loads, you can see that I've got my building here, and it's this external, basically a link. I can hide the link at once, and I can see that I'm working with my model, and I can view the object. I work with this link just as a one object. So even if I hide or unhide it, it works just as one object. So still I'm working with my project as the main project, and this other IFC is kind of just a secondary. But if I wanted to get some information from the linked file, I would use the Explore tool. So I will switch to Explore tool. Now if I right click on an object from the linked IFC, here in the links panel, I will scroll down, and here is the information about the selected object from the linked IFC. So at least I can get some information from the linked object. So you can see that this is the IFC window. If I right click this one, it's IFC covering, etc. So these are some options of how you can work with linked IFCs. Okay, so this is the end of the overview of using Bonsai as an IFC viewer, or a basic Bonsai user interface overview. In my opinion, Bonsai provides a great overview of a IFC file. I prefer it to other IFC viewers. The biggest disadvantage of Bonsai is that it's also an IFC editor, so this gives quite an overhead to the software. So it's not as performant as some pure IFC viewers, so it might struggle with some bigger IFCs, so your mileage may vary, but I still prefer the information that I get through Bonsai BIM. Now it's May 2026, and I heard it through the grapevine, and by grapevine I mean the osarch forum, that a desktop viewer based on IFC OpenShell is being developed. You can see preview here. So I guess this one will probably solve problematic part that I talked about, and that is slow loading of large IFC files. Stay tuned to SPB production channel, because I will be definitely covering this one when it's released. If you think that Bonsai BIM adds value to your work, consider supporting the project by donating to it. The donation button is on the bonsaibim.org page. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.